I run an online education business. I teach people how to turn buying property into a career, so how to become a buyer's agent. I had never run a business. I'd never worked in sales. I had no marketing experience. People that I spoke to about the concept all told me I was going to fail. I was probably up to 30K months within the first month. Profitable. It was obviously a niche that I knew fucking back to front, right? But I was doubting myself and it was fucking scary and I thought I was going to fail. It's no get rich quick, but it can be crazy. Like a lady last year, she did $1 million in her first year. She was a nurse. She was earning $52 an hour. She was an ICU nurse, not driven by money at all. That's abnormal, but she did $1 million and her profit margin, I think was around 90%. And so like, I'm just like, where can you do that?
Guys, welcome back to another episode of Two Blokes, One Business with Adam Powell and Harvey Rivers. And today we're joined with a pretty incredible guest, Ben Handler.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this one. I think salespeople in general talk a really good game. We do it in recruitment. I'm sure people in the real estate world do it, but you've actually built the business and you've gone along the journey and arguably kind of got into buyer's agents as an industry before it really existed in Australia. So we're super, super excited to unpack all of this. But give us an overview of what Ben Handler does today.
Thanks for the intro, gents. Two geezers. That's awesome.
Proper geezers.
Proper geezers. So today, current form, I run an online education business in the career space, which we call business opportunity, BizOp. I teach people how to turn buying property into a career. So how to become a buyer's agent. And so I'm dealing with people from all walks of life. We've got recruiters in there. We've got plumbers in there. We've got miners in there. We've got, sophisticated lawyers in there. We've just got people who typically are, I would say, typically unhappy with what they're doing with their life in terms of career. Obviously, there's a few who are very happy and content, but mostly people aren't fulfilled and they love property and they want to do something different. So I'm really teaching them not how to get a license. I'm teaching them the business acumen. I'm teaching them what I believe I wish I had when I started my first buyer's agent business, which was my first business. So I'm teaching them, I believe, like hard skills and soft skills that I think is critical to execute as a founder.
I love that. And then going back to when you did start your first business, as Harvey mentioned, that was pretty niche, pretty rare. And I can only imagine now the Ray Whites of the world, all the sellers agents who have been doing it for years. This is the way it's always done. How dare you challenge our way of thinking? How dare you come to the real estate world with a new concept?
Yeah.
And I guess first off, why did you decide to start a buyer's agency? And then how did you deal with all that external noise who were probably egging you on to fail?
So I'll start with, firstly, there's a concept which I call the wrong vehicle concept. And I believe that initially I was in the wrong vehicle. So I came from a corporate background, great company, great people, really smart environment. But in terms of the impact that I wanted to create, which I didn't know what I wanted to create at that time, I was 25 for context. I wanted to solve proper problems. I wanted to have financial independence, etc. I was in the wrong vehicle, right? And I got made redundant. So if I didn't get made redundant, I could have probably just stayed there and just kind of, just went through that path. But thank God, like one of the biggest blessings, I was made redundant. And so that then inspired me to start my new business. But the corporate world was a really interesting moment because I think like we deal with a lot of people on the phone who are very unhappy with their career. Okay, they're in the wrong vehicle. And I think where it starts is you need to have awareness, number one, that you're in the wrong vehicle. And then number two, that you got choice. So you can make a choice. So when I left corporate, I was looking around, what the fuck am I going to do? Like it was very daunting. Like I know I didn't want to go back to that vehicle, which was corporate. I knew that I needed to do something like where I'd become a founder, solve problems. So I was looking for a deep problem to solve and how I could create big impact. So by chance, I was in the US, I was in California. I was actually at a Halloween party. I got chatting to a group of guys and one of them was my other co-founder who I'd never met and there was another one was American. And anyway, we got chatting about a concept, a BizOp, and it wasn't right. But anyway, it led us to kind of research buyer's agencies, like the buyer's agent industry. Mm-hmm. So in the US, I think like 85% of people use a buyer's agent in North America.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Super common. Yeah. So I was like, hey, that's interesting. But then I realized that in the US, the seller pays the buyer's agent, which was weird. So if you went to LA to buy a home, you'd get a buyer's agent representation for free because the seller would pay you. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey, that's a problem. So we looked back in Australia and thought, is this being done? The answer was yes. We weren't the first, but no one knows about them, so they're not doing a great job. And we thought, people in this country love property. Like, why are they working with real estate agents? Like, that's a fucking big problem. Like, why haven't they got representation? So we kind of assessed that and realized, like, hey, let's like pressure test this business model. Getting back to what you said around the failing and the critics, like when I was thinking about the business model, I obviously had never run a business. I'd never worked in sales. I had no marketing experience. People that I spoke to about the concept all told me I was going to fail. Every real estate agent that I spoke to, I think it was 5 or 6 of them, said I was going to fail. Why is a buyer going to pay you money? Like, why are they going to pay you retainer? Like, which was fair. I was like, and then my dad was like, mate, this is not going to work, this concept. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I think ultimately I cared enough about the problem to solve that noise I didn't care about, which I think was critical. But then we just basically started in my bedroom and said, let's just test this concept. First client was someone that I kind of knew. He was a developer and he wanted to buy a property for his son. And we're like, hey, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, basically. We just want to solve this problem and we want to get this outcome. And his name was Curtis and he signed up with us. You know, I think he paid a $5,000 retainer, two things like a $1.3 million purchase for his son. And so we started to like get proof of concept. And then we're like, hey, this thing works. Let's roll this baby out.
I love it. That's such a good story. I think, and I love the message behind it where you said you just couldn't not do it. And people were telling you no, but you just believed in it so much. Because I think it's so easy for people that haven't gone on that journey to look at someone now at the top of the mountain, right? And they go, oh, it looks like it's all easy. But they don't understand that even at day one, you had so many people telling you not to do it, but you still took the risk to keep on going.
Yes.
Who did you have around you? Because at that time, you were one of the first to really do it well in Australia. Now, we're very lucky. Recruitment has been done for many, many years. So when we started Harwell, we had some really good mentors that had been there and done it and achieved exactly what we wanted to do in similar markets within Australia in recruitment. So we had them to model our business off.
Yeah.
It sounds like you didn't have that in Australia.
I didn't have anyone in the corner, like as I'd say a mentor at that age to like bounce shit off, to be like, hey, like, what do you think? I think like getting back to your question, I did not want to go back to a 9 to 5. I was like, this is not going to fulfill me. I can't fucking do that. Right. Like I can't. So that was like a no. So I had to start a business. And so ultimately I didn't need someone. I was like, this is a significant problem that I think needs to be solved. And basically you're going to have to run me over for it not to work.
Love it.
Like, and so at that stage, I just didn't need anyone to kind of validate for me or inspire me or motivate me. I'm like, hey, I care about this. So I think it comes down to care. It's like, how much as a founder do you fucking care?
Yeah, Ad's had a great saying when we started Harwell. Like a lot of people wanted us to fail, right? Okay. Our ex-employer, big global agency, they would have loved nothing more than to see this crumble, right? Because most people that do what we've done do it after 10 or 15 years in the game. And I think he was 4 years in, I was maybe 2.5 years in. And they was thinking, who are these two little dickheads that think they're going to go out and play with the big guys? But Ads used to say from day one, and we were sat in his kitchen, just on the phones, on the laptops, he goes, the only way this thing fucking fails is if a meteor hits the earth. Like, it's not going to be because of us, because we'll just work 24 hours a day. And I think that mindset in the early days was just what got us through.
Yeah.
That gets your first client as well. Like talking about Curtis there, he would have backed you because of your energy. You didn't have testimonials. You didn't have all this fancy templates of what you've done. You didn't have a track record. What you had was big balls and a lot of hunger. And people want to help people like that. Did you find that in the early days was really powerful for you?
Yeah, I think just being honest. Yeah. Like a lot of buyers agents who come through my program who are looking to even start, they're like, I don't have experience. Like, how am I going to start? I go, like, every expert starts as a beginner. And I just think, like, for me, I was just talking through my why versus what. So, like, when I started, I wasn't saying, like, I'm a buyer's agent, I'm going to do this. I was more just saying, like, hey, I think the industry is fucked at the moment. Like, buyers are misrepresented. I think people like you just get screwed over all the time by real estate. And I was talking about, like, why I cared so much. And so I think just being transparent and talking about why I cared so much helped me acquire clients. And I think, like, it's a powerful place to, I think, start when you're starting out.
Yeah. And you've never had any sales training, because there you're quite naturally digging into some real emotional pain points of a potential buyer. Naturally.
I sucked at sales. No, like I was shit house. So like I just learned really quickly because I realized I couldn't sell at the beginning. So I think naturally I might just have been able to communicate in a certain way, but I sucked at sales. I had no process. I had no idea. I realized very quickly that there were certain skills that I had to develop, right? And there's something that I call like the skill stacking snowball. And I believe that, I think you need to stack certain skills, like rare unique skills. Like for me, it was like sales and marketing, and allow them to compound versus trying to be like a master at one thing. And so as a founder, like we're all founders, like you wear so many hats to begin with, right? For me, when I started to get good at sales and marketing collectively, it's really fucking powerful. I found, like in terms of like what you can start to create and how fast you can start to move. So I just made it a very strong priority to really focus on those two areas because I believe that they're mission critical to a business. I don't know what you guys think about that. But.
Literally, I think sales is probably our strong point. The marketing we've learned and developed over time, working for a big agency, that was all kind of taken for you. You've got a big brand to leverage. Starting Harwell, it's scary, but also quite exciting because it's a blank canvas. It can literally be whatever we want it to be. And one thing we chose very early on is we don't want to disconnect between Harvey and Adam and Harwell. It's all one thing.
Yes.
Right. And whatever engagement you ever get from Harwell, it's the same engagement you get if you saw me at the beach on a Saturday. Right. And that's scary because then if people choose not to work with Harwell, it's a personal attack or insult because they don't want to work with me. But on the flip side, when people do choose to work with you, do choose to partner with you, and then essentially pay for your time and your service, again, that's because of you completely, which that's the most fulfilling thing for me with this business is that people connect with it because they connect with us.
Yes.
And they connect with us because they connect with it. If that makes a little bit of sense.
Ads loves making up these like crazy quotes, and he fucks it every time. It was really scary, but I think naturally it was a blessing in disguise because it helped repel the people that we didn't want to work with, and that would in turn hate working with us. So that was something that, although early on when you need business and you take on any work that you can, it was quite scary. I think it's really been a blessing in disguise to help us grow to where we are today. Like I think the people we work with now, we're really happy and our hit rate as a result of that. Like I think back when we were in global agency, you might fill 30% of the jobs you get on. Okay. Whereas now I'd say we're closer to more like an 80% because the businesses we're working with are so aligned, yes, in the standards that they hold, but also their values as well.
Yes.
So I think that's something that's been just incredible for us.
So good.
A level of influence as well. I think because you are more of a partner with these people and we can work with people who, again, same value, shared alignment, you can influence them more because they know you've got their best intention as the outcome as well. It's not just great, we want to place someone so we can make a bit of money and, go to the pub and have a few beers. We're genuinely doing it because one, we've taken the time to understand the business and now we really, really want to go and make sure pain points you've got, the fellow we or the lady we get through the business is going to fix those pain points too, which going back to what I'm feeling from you, Ben, from the very start is that emotion of helping. So my question to you, mate, is that born out of a need to get out of a corporate world, start a business and find someone to help? Or has that always been in your nature, mate? Is that the way you're wired to help people?
Good question. I just think it comes down to problem solving around for me, I think business is about solving problems. And I just feel like the first problem was to solve changing the way property was bought in Australia because no one used a buyer's agent when I first started, right? No one had ever heard of a fucking buyer's agent ever. So if I was trying to sell something that they'd never heard of, and then I was trying to ask them to give me a retainer of $5,000, they kind of just was looking at me going what is, are you trying to scam?
Is this a scam?
Yeah. And I used to wear suits and have short hair, and they thought I was they thought buyer's agent was like an art dealer.
Oh wow!
Of course, yeah. I guess it would be. Yeah.
I think they just associated buyer's agent with selling art, but ultimately the first business was to change the way property was bought. So after 9.5 years, I was okay, that box has been ticked. I feel like there's been impact there. We've solved some big problems, and then this business was really trying to get more people into the industry and transform more lives at scale. And that was through becoming a buyer's agent, right? Just creating life-changing opportunities and career paths. So I just think it comes down to for me, just the problem I'm looking to solve and then just going deep and linear into that and just riding that wave until I guess it starts to come to an end.
What about the relationship with your co-founder? Now, we're quite lucky. We told you our love story earlier that we met at 14.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
His dad picked me up from the train station, and we're not friends, we're not brothers, we're kind of a level above that, right? There's nothing I don't know about halves, vice versa. We can deliver bad news, celebrate good news together. It's a real special connection we've got, and I think I'd struggle to have this level of commitment to someone and from someone else in a business sense as well. What was your relationship like with your co-founder? And did you start off like me and halves in love? Did you grow over time?
Interesting. So I think it's brilliant that you guys have such a strong relationship.
Makes it sound like we're in an actual relationship and getting married.
It sounds like it. No, but no, I think it's like, I think partnerships are hard. Like whether it's professional, whether it's your love partner, like I just think it needs to be managed. There needs to be hygiene. And so for me, we met spontaneously in California. We'd never met each other before. And I would probably say that like before establishing alignment with our values and friendship, like probably the business opportunity came first. Like it was like, hey, this is interesting. And then, so I think without getting into the detail of it, I'd say that over time we just outgrew each other for whatever reason. We just started having different alignment with values, with what we wanted in life. And so I'd say ultimately it kind of fell apart in the sense of we didn't share the common vision anymore. And I'd started Buyers Agent Institute whilst I was still at Cohen Handler. So we'd both started this company together.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was like, hey man, like it started getting really good like results really quickly. And I was like, hey, I can impact more people. Like that was an opportunity for me to be like, hey, I'm going to exit, let you do your own thing. But I think partnerships are challenging, like business partnerships are challenging. I think a lot of people jump into them. From what I observe, like just, hey, I want a co-founder. They don't have like a deep relationship like you guys have had and you guys know each other well. And then you start a business. I think a lot of people start the opposite way like I did, which is you don't get to know each other first. You then get into a commercial relationship and then, you start to uncover things about each other and you're like, fuck, I'm pretty deep in.
And you're in deep, yeah.
Yeah. Looking back now, reflecting, at the start, you're in the honeymoon phase with your business partner, right? Everything's nice. It's the same as a relationship. Is there anything that you wish you'd done or you could have done as a pair to perhaps save that relationship or stop it going the way it was?
The first word is just communication. I think where most relationships break down is just poor communication. So like, for example, not saying how you feel and then there's resentment and then it just starts to compound and then you want to, kill that person, stab them in the neck. But so I wish I was just probably more upfront with how I was feeling and just being more open with dialogue more regularly. And I think that would have, I'd say, improved things for sure.
Yeah. I think it's a pivotal stage of life as well. When you're 25 to the next few years, or 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35, you change so much as a person. So you're kind of banking on, like you said, growing the same way, which is like a personal relationship as well. Talk to you about your transformation, mate, because I'm sure the person I'm sat in front of now is a very different Ben Handler to what I would have sat in front of back at 25.
So 25, that was the first bizzo, Cohen Handler. So definitely looking to fill voids there, like with just definitely like as an entrepreneur, I don't know what voids I was trying to fill, but I was basically like, hey, I know I can be good at business because I started to get like good at it pretty quick. And I'm like, hey, I reckon I can execute pretty hard on this. And so I just went all in on business. So work was my biggest priority, like not family. It was fucking work. So I was like addicted to work. And I tell this story, like one of my girlfriends at the time, I used to have a Kindle and I used to like fucking read. I don't read much anymore, but I used to read a lot. And I used to take it out to dinner and I'd read at the table for parts of the dinner. Like, and she tolerated it. So, but I used to do shit like that because I was like, hey, I can't read during the day. I'm going to be too tired when I get to bed. So I was thinking, hey, I can probably catch it in this moment. And that's just what I was doing at the time. So I thought work was everything. It consumed my entire week. I think it leads for me, I can't speak for anyone else, but like a lot of unhappiness. I was buying fast cars, Aston Martins, all stuff. So I was trying to like buy materialistic objects to kind of fill other voids, which wasn't helping. So I guess back then it was about stacking the calendar, heaps of fucking meetings. I wanted a big team. It was about ego. I just wasn't, I would say, extremely self-aware early on around what I wanted. So I think I was just driven by the wrong things. Did obviously very well, but it came at a big cost. And so where I'm up to now is more like lifestyle, super like family, lifestyle, high output with less input is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for leverage. I'm just looking to enjoy the day. I'm not looking to have to go on 3 holidays a year to have fun. Like I'm looking to try and incorporate a holiday mindset as much as I can. But also, again, getting back to, I want to get the maximum output by the least input. And so I'm thinking about delegation around good people and getting things done through other people. And so I'm just looking at life a bit differently, because just wrapping this up, I think back then I thought, okay, I've got to fucking do everything. I've got to like work all day. I've got to work massive long days to get a result. But I started to realize that there was a different way when I started this new business to achieve that.
One thing I'd love to know, if you'd done it differently with Cohen Handler, say you had that lifestyle mindset from the output and you weren't work, do you think it would have had the same success?
No.
It's hard, isn't it? It's a fucking catch-22.
And I think that I don't regret going through that process. I had to go through that to realize I don't want to fucking live like that anymore. I don't want that anymore. So I think when walking up the stairs, I was like, hey, like, sick office you guys have got. I don't go into offices that much anymore. But like, I would never get another office again because I'm just allergic. For me, we had so many of them. I'm just like allergic to them. And maybe that will change. Maybe in a few years' time, I'll be like, fuck up. Maybe I'll want an office. But I think I had to go through that whole process to start to get clear about the life I want to live. And I don't think that, I think a lot of us put work first and then lifestyle, for example. Like I'm from Sydney originally, right? And a lot of people like live, I'm not sure if they'll live like in Potts Point, which is 8-minute walk from the city, because they can walk to work, right? Yeah. Versus going, as an example, like versus going, I want to live in Byron. I'm not referring to me, but I want to live in Byron. So if I want to live in Byron, I'll have to think how I can be like maybe a digital nomad, or how I can do something online, and that will then allow them to be more fulfilled. So anyway, I'm just trying to make decisions from how does this fit my lifestyle now, and then work backwards.
Yeah. We had Chris Cochran and Shani on the podcast, who I know you know well. And I remember seeing a video on Instagram of his, and he was like, I quit my 9 till 5, the hustle. I moved to Bali. I worked 20 hours a week remotely and earned 300K in the first year. And I was like, holy fuck, that sounds good. I was like, we need to get this guy on. And he obviously went through that same journey. I think, was he selling gym courses, or he's a PT or something like that? And then just went through that mindset himself. And now they've got a lovely family, and that lifestyle serves them so well.
Correct. So important though. Like in real estate, as a buyer's agent, but also a selling agent, you're very structured with your diary, and you're planning, or typically most people are who are high performers, right? They're planning out their year. So they're like, okay, June, July, Europe. December could be like a skiing trip like that. But like you're planning it all the long weekends. Like that's what you typically do. And I kind of like looked at that when I got out of Cohen Handler, like, fuck that. Like, I don't want that anymore. Like, I mean, I want to be able to like, have a business rugby, like, hey, I want to go away to India next week, so I'm just going to go. So I want to have that freedom of choice. But also, I want to incorporate more consistency around enjoyment throughout the year. And so it's been a big process to kind of work through it. Like, it's not easy. I mean, I was telling you, like, when I started BAI, I didn't have a busy calendar, and it took me around. I actually went through not depression, but I went through a very weird state because I felt like I wasn't being productive. I was going to fucking fail because my diary wasn't full. And so I think it's just been a bit of an adjustment process to work through.
I think being busy tricks you into thinking you're productive, right? And I think then being productive gives you that taste of success potentially, and you start making good money and you get the material things. And then I think you kid yourself into thinking you're providing. For me, that's a really strong value of going, great, I can provide for those around me financially, or maybe not financially, but with time, because I've got financial resources to buy my time back. Whereas really, all they actually want is your time in the first place. So before you get so busy trying to make money to buy your time back, if you just structured your life and got yourself some balance and gave the people you love and care about the time they deserve, you can save yourself going through the heartbreak and the journey to get there. Like, it's such a weird paradox, isn't it?
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, my partner, I just laughing then because my partner Brit's always like, remember, my love language is acts of service. And I'm like, if I'm sat here for 60 hours a week, you can't be doing any acts of service. So it is powerful.
I think we're lucky that Mads and Brit keep us so grounded. I think talking about the Kindle at the dinner table, I would have got a slap around the face, I reckon, and so would you, if that was the case. And they're great. They understand that we're on a bit of a journey, and hopefully as time goes on, life gets easier. We've got more structure around us and more time. But they know these first couple of years are and have been full on. But at the same time, they keep us grounded in terms of when we are at home, when we're not in high mode, we've got to be fully present.
Yes.
Would your relationships at the time, were they serious to that level, or were they just girlfriends that kind of came and went who didn't really have the waiting to make those decisions for you?
Definitely wasn't my wife. Just a girlfriend. But yeah, like she obviously tolerated it, which was the problem. Obviously it's my fault for doing it, but she allowed it. So I just kind of carried on that habit. But I think it's great, just what you were saying earlier, just for both of you, that you've got supportive, partners. So do I. And I think, starting a business, I think working through the business has so many different stages, right? As you would know, but I think it's so critical to have a supportive partner, because I know people who, they don't have that. Like they're running businesses and they don't have it, and it's terrible. You're really challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't imagine it.
When would you stop? Like you'd have no reason to stop. I think it's the hardest thing, and you'd have no reason to reach the limit. Like I couldn't tell you what a financial target is now in terms of what we're working towards. It's more so just everything kind of going together in terms of fitness, family time, connection with friends, financial security, and then kind of financial freedom after that, different assets. It's all kind of just a big grand vision. So I think without having a reason for it, you'd probably struggle to know where the finish line is, and you'd just work yourself into oblivion, which maybe, to be fair, maybe is kind of what you're going through at that time.
Yeah, true. 100%.
One thing I'd love to know from your experience, we talk a lot about hard work, elite performance. That's what this podcast, when it's just mine and Ads' episodes, that's what we really drill into, because we're in that founder phase early on in business where it's just like hustle. Like we're still on the tools every single day. Like the business relies on us. You've now gone through that kind of full journey of building it more so for your lifestyle. Can you get to that stage without doing the hustle? I guess where I'm coming from is, if I'm someone who's sat at home listening to this now, I've just started in business, or I want to start a business idea, but I'm tossing up, I want the lifestyle, I want to work hard to make this business work. Like, where's the balance, or is there different phases?
It's a hard one, right? Like, and it's a good question, because like you guys came from a professional sporting background. And so, I don't watch soccer, but I admire it, because when I do see some of the players, I'm like, fuck, like that's crazy shit. Like it's super talented. But the reason I'm using it as an example is like Ronaldo, like he had to make a sacrifice to become the best. Like, so he's not like having a great lifestyle like he's working his ass off. And he's probably got very minimal time to spend at certain stages with his family, etc. So I think initially, to become really elite, I think you've got to make a sacrifice, and that's time. I just think it has to be, like, to become really elite at something, I think that has to happen. But getting back to your question more specifically is, I think where most people go wrong, and I have as well, is I think if you start a business, for example, and you're like, hey, I want to have like 3 months of the year travel. I want to be doing X, Y, Z. I'm comfortable only making, let's call it like 600 grand. And you got specificity around this. I think you can nail it. Like you can be like, when you're not really clear, I think that's where you become super unbalanced and things start moving in different directions. So I think having the specificity around exactly what your life needs to look like, and you're not going to compromise on it, I think you can achieve it from the outset.
We talk all the time about the ever-changing goalposts. Like when we first started in business, we had this big whiteboard on the wall in Ads' spare room, right? And it was road to 1 million. And then we hit it within 10 months. But back then, 1 million in year one would have been fucking emotional at the thought of that. But then you do it, and it was like, we celebrated for maybe 35 seconds, I think. And then we're like, okay, what's fucking next? And then you achieve that. And it's like, okay, what's next again? And that's where I think the balance can spiral out of control, because as you said, if you don't have the specificity of that end goal, what is the financial target that you're happy with? And then you can manufacture your life around that. Or what does my life need to be? Or where does the business need to get to so I can step away and set my lifestyle?
Yes.
That's where I can see it spiral out of control. And we've probably been sucked into that. I mean, this business was meant to be me and Ads working 30 hours on the beach, chilling out. And now we're sat here today with a team of 8 and keen to add more. So it's tough.
It's crazy. But you're living proof of how it can work, right? My fear is, and it's probably ego talking more than logic, is if we were to step away and not be on the tools generating and driving standards, how would we maintain the momentum that we've got? Did you go through that journey starting BAI, of knowing that you didn't want to be the old Ben Handler of Cohen Handler, but then also worrying about not getting the business to a level it could be if you were so full on?
So you said something earlier about, I think in relation to you guys not being, there was like a financial target maybe that you guys weren't thinking about. When I started BAI, I wasn't actually thinking about, I just exited and I was like, I actually wasn't thinking about like, how much money am I going to make? I was just thinking like what you guys were saying earlier about delivering high impact, like just really creating transformation, where I wasn't actually thinking like I was at Cohen Handler, how much money am I going to make?
Yeah.
So I think everything started to just flow like very effortlessly, like the way everything worked. But I guess answering your question more specifically, what I've learned in my experience is this: it all comes down to delegation. Everything comes down to delegation in terms of how you can achieve maximum leverage. And so like the way that I look at things is, can this task be performed by someone else better than me? And if the answer is yes, then I'll find that person to get it done. If someone, I think as founders, the way I look at it like this: you guys have got a team of 8. I feel like the way teams work is fires get put out by the team, and there's certain fires that can't get put out. And the certain fires that don't get put out get put to the founder or founders, CEO, whoever, and they get the extinguisher and they've got to fucking get it out. And so my way of thinking as I was building BAI was, I need to build a team of people around me that can put out enough fires where it doesn't come to my desk. But obviously when there's a significant fire, it's going to come to me. And so it was all about just building the right team around me so I could delegate more effectively and start to really understand that the team you build is the company you build. And I just feel like it just comes, I think there has to, like, I feel like there just needs to be a strong mindset shift for me around how can I get things done through other people? And by doing that, you get back your time, you know?
Hormozy talks really well around that. He talks around micromanagement. He's like, as a founder, if you're having to micromanage, that means that you're saying you can do their job better than them. You've hired the wrong people. Get rid of them.
Yes.
You need to lock back to A players.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, A players. So I think it's an interesting question because there was just probably a very strong flow state in the first 4 years where things just worked. And I know this might sound a bit fucking weird, but I wasn't actually putting too much thought into like strategy, into domination. I was just like moving the way it needed to move. And it just started just fucking steamrolling. And obviously like that also came at a cost because I was probably a bit disorganized, but there was less force trying to create outcomes and just more flow.
What was your mindset like around the time you transitioned from Cohen Handler? You built a super, super successful business. I think I read you had over 70 people working for you across numerous offices in Australia, California. And then you go back, you go into your new business and it's day one and it's just Ben. That must be pretty fucking scary.
So there's a story I tell, like when people come into BAI, some of them, like we've got, as I said earlier, we've got people in all different industries. But let's say we've got someone who comes from an IT background. We've got a lot of IT people. They'll be working at like a great job, and they'll come and say like, I'm scared to like do this part time. Like I'm doubting myself. And so the story that I give to answer your question is, when I was selling out of Cohen Handler in 2018, I'd started the Buyer's Agent Institute, and I was probably up to 30K months really cool, like within the first month, profitable. It was obviously a niche that I knew fucking like back to front, right? I'd spent, 9.5 years in this industry. So, but I was doubting myself because it was a new business model. It was education. It was online. I was out of the office. I didn't have my EA or my team, and so, I was basically by myself and it was fucking scary. And I thought I was going to fail. And so the reason I share that story with people is because I tell people, like, if you've got a job and you're starting a side hustle and you've got security, you should be doubting yourself. And I was doubting myself in a niche that I knew back to front, and I was generating income, and I just exited a company and I was still like doubting myself. So I think the fear of fear is real. And I think for me, it keeps me on my toes. And there was a study done though, like years ago on billionaires, and what drives them as well from the study, I forget what it was called, was they all feel like they're going to fail.
Wow.
It's a superpower, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what keeps us moving.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we kind of go, okay, we switch off for 1 minute. The last 2 years could all crumble very, very quickly. and it's all a waste.
Yes.
And that frightens me. But at the same time, I don't want that feeling to go away, because I think the minute you do think you've made it and you take your foot off the gas, that's when it gets you.
100%.
And then you're in big trouble.
I think that's why we do keep setting these not crazy goals, but bigger goals and bolder goals every time, to feel like if we're not on our A game here, we're not going to win. Being competitive, we need to win, right? Whatever that win looks like, if it's a micro step, if it's a process, it's a high five from a client saying good job, we need to get that feeling.
Yes.
So I think when we reach a goal, if we just sat and stayed there, we kind of plateau. And as you know, if you're not going forwards, you're going backwards, because everyone else around you is also gunning and working just as hard as you are. So I think that's probably the big one for us. And speaking pretty bluntly, I don't know when that's ever going to change. You know, when we get to a point where I can go, this is the level, we're on top of the mountain, now let's stay here.
Yes.
Rather than let's go and climb that bigger mountain over there. You know?
Does it become easier? You're obviously speaking with a lot of people that are in a job that they don't like. That, you know, they're in the wrong vehicle, and they're going to make that move into your business and, you know, become a buyer's agent. How is that different for them than it is for you? Coming out of Cohen Handler, for example, financially, I assume you'd have been in a lot better position than what this person. And we might have a lot of people listening to this podcast that might be a tradie, for example, but hates being on the tools and they want to make that change. What do you tell your guys? How do you go through that process?
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Two Blokes, One Business podcast.
Now, apart from being world-class podcasters, we also run a recruitment agency called Harwell.
If you're keen to learn a little bit more about what we do, then head over to our Instagram at Harwell Group and check us out.
Back to the app.
I tell them my story, which was I was one of them. So I was in a corporate job, like I said, which I mean, it just wasn't right. I got made redundant, and starting a buyer's agent business or just getting it transformed my whole fucking life. Like, I think I was earning at the time 80 grand. This is, I think this is 2008, I think. Started Cohen Handler 2010. I think we did 900K our first year, which was, you know, a lot of money back then, and also a big first year. And so it just opened my eyes around like how I can live a different life. It wasn't about the money. The metric was an output of what I was doing, but I was just like, wow, like I just thought I thought I was going to be like a corporate guy for my whole life, and that's what you had to. I actually thought that's what you had to do. Like I just thought that's what you do to succeed. So I thought it was cool to wear a tie and to go into the city and catch the train, and I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And so I tell them like it changed my whole life, like jumping into this industry. So if there's someone, let's say they're a tradie, I just say like, I got made redundant, so I didn't have income. So if you can be continuing on with your work and start this part-time, you know, it could change your life. It might not. And a lot of people, it doesn't change their life. A lot of people fail for whatever reason. Doesn't work for everyone. But I'm still yet to find, like, I don't know. I mean, recruitment looks pretty good. Like you're investing your time, like as I'm assuming it's comm only, right? For a lot of people that come into it.
Our employees, you know, more salary plus comms. But yeah, there is transitions.
Okay.
More salary heavy than what you'd see in the real estate world, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, you know, we dealt with a few real estate recruiters when I was back in my last company, and I think,
Good experience.
well, it seemed like they were comm only.
You can go hard.
I think different values to you guys.
Yeah.
They went pretty hard, but it's a super transformative industry, the one that we're in. Like, it's no get rich quick, but it's fucking. It can be crazy. Like a lady last year, she did $1 million in her first year. She was a nurse. She was earning $52 an hour. She was an ICU nurse, not driven by money at all. That's abnormal, but she did $1 million in her first year. So that, like, to me, like, and her profit margin, I think was around 90%. Jeez. And so, like, I'm just like, where can you do that? And so I like to share, like, not that story because it's an abnormal story, but it's just something that you can do. And I think that, like, some people just don't want to take that transformation pill. They're not ready.
Why do people fail? So when they do come through BAI, and we've got people like the nurse who made $1 million, and we've got people who are just doing really good, successful years without at that level. The ones who don't get there, where does it go wrong for them?
Interesting. I think a lot of people want the good life, whatever that fucking means for them. Whatever that means. Everyone's got their own, we've all got our own interpretation. But a lot of people want the good life, whatever that is for them. I just don't think they're ready to put in the work of what it takes to, like, have that good life. I also think they don't care enough about what they're doing. And I don't think there's a strong enough problem that they want to solve. And so I think that cocktail is what fucks them.
There's no silver bullet. Like, there's no secret recipe other than hard work at some stage. And I love what you say about believing in what you do. Because when we were recruiting for our last company, massive global agency. This is the way it's always been done. You had to follow a blueprint. And I just remember always sitting there thinking like, there's a better way. Like there's a more efficient way I can work for starters. And there's a better way I can service clients, job seekers, where they're not just effectively numbers on a wall. And I honestly didn't believe in what we did. And there were times, if ads hadn't got me the job, I'd have left and I'd have quit. But I hung in there because I'm like, no, he's put his neck on the line for me. But now you flip that to Harwell, where we've been able to build our own business, our own process and our own values. And I now truly believe the value we can bring to you as a business owner, and how the time we buy you back by recruiting, you spend the time doing what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
The people we can put into your business, we talk about A players, B players. We go and put the A players in your business. Again, it buys you back more time, but transforms your business and the other people's lives within the business. And it's just so much more powerful to have that belief. And now I could do this every single day for the rest of my life. Whereas there was a time at our old employer, like I said, I was ready to pull the plug.
It's crazy, isn't it? I think going back to why people fail, I think it's because they're too comfortable. I think when you've got a safety net, you're already in a job. So if the buyer's agency thing works, great. If it doesn't, I'm still a chippy. I'll still be okay. And then I think the rise of your influencers on Instagram, they see the cream of the crop, right? You see people's highlights, you see them on a boat, sipping champagne in Monaco. And you think it must be easy.
Sounds all right, that.
Anyone can do it. It must be so easy. But what they don't see is, if it's that person, for example, is all the 99% of their life, or the first few years of grinding, being the person who's posting 5 times a day with no engagement, and pushing through that and having those dark thoughts, and the people around you, similar to you would have done, saying, this is a shit idea, you're going to fail. But going through the other side. And the social media generation now, it's so easy to see the people winning and think, oh, I could do that. That's not too hard. What do they do that I can't, without seeing all the under work that's gone on?
It's true. And you said the word comfort. I agree with that point. I think that's spot on. I just think ultimately people don't fucking care enough. Like you guys, you said, that meteorite would have to come in for you guys to fail. And for me, it was like, you got to run me over. And so we collectively cared enough to, under whatever circumstance, it had to work. Like there was no other ultimatum. It's like, it fucking works or I'm dead, basically. And I'm going to make it work no matter what. And I think people aren't coming in with that level of conviction or mindset around how they want to win. And I just think what it comes down to for people is, how much do you care?
Yeah. That's what we say. Like if you just outwork all of your competitors, you'll win.
Yes.
Like it's as simple as that. I've got a selfish question for me and ads.
Yeah.
You were in a service-based business. Where exactly similar to what we are now. And ultimately, you only have so much time in the day. The only way you can scale is through working more hours or hiring more people, which is, huge risk, huge overheads. You've transitioned now where you're selling a product and you're in the one-to-many space. That's something that we've kind of looked, what does beyond Harwell look like, or where can we bring that, or a one-to-many product alongside Harwell in the same discipline? What was your kind of process with working that out?
Fuck. I'm really glad you asked that question. I want to share a business idea with you guys.
Let's go. On air
to help
first.
you guys. Yeah. So, great. So I was talking about someone I spoke to last year. I didn't know them very well, but they're in recruitment. And so I've already brainstormed something that I want to share with you. But rewinding back, so I came from a service-based business, as you mentioned. When I launched BAI and got a taste for the one-to-many model, like creating a product, once, like I created the online program, the curriculum, and you can just like sell it like a phone online. Oh my God. It was like, I don't even know how to describe when I got the first sale, in terms of not the sale, but just seeing how it worked. I was it was mind-boggling, right? So to move to an online, into an online environment where you can get scale, where you can mass produce and be in a one-to-many, I think it's really cool.
I'm keen to dig back into your lifestyle, because you feel like you've kind of come full circle, and you look after yourself very, very well today. And I read something the other day that you're 41 years old.
I couldn't believe when he said you're 41.
That's a fucking lie, surely.
So 2 days ago, I was speaking with someone. I've been on 3 podcasts where people have actually, the other 2 podcasts, they asked me my age last year. and they fucking flipped out.
Yeah.
Like they didn't realize I was 41. I don't know. We were talking about you guys are kind of, you're not off the piss, but you're off the piss. I think.
Yeah, I am till his bucks in the States.
I got off the piss about 13 years ago. So I think that's definitely been something, like just for me, like I wasn't an alcoholic, but like, getting on the piss used to lead to everything else, right? Like late nights, shit sleep, drugs, all that stuff. So I think getting off the piss has been a big one for me around just maintaining good health. And mate, I surf a lot. I'm in the ocean heaps. So salt water. And I don't know. I just take care. Like I live on 6 acres. So like we eat a lot of good quality food. And I don't know, mate. I try and look after myself. I put it's like a priority. Like I just try and I care what I eat. I do a lot of like I run on oxygen machine, like I run on a VO, with an oxygen mask. So I do altitude. Like how I run is with altitude. It's basically altitude training. So that's how I run. I do a lot of red light therapy. I've got one in my house. I've got like this thing called a PEMF mat. Like Gary Brecker, like the protocol that he gave to Dana White. Have you heard of Gary Brecker?
No, I haven't.
No.
He's just he's a big dude on the circuit around like longevity and health. Anyway, and he got Dana White. Dana White was basically dying. Just was fucking in a bad position. And this guy like changed his life. So I basically follow that protocol of just how I live with my health.
So what was a PEMF?
Oh, sorry. That's pulse electromagnetic field or something.
Yeah.
I can't fucking say that.
Yeah.
But you lie on this mat and it just fucking pulsates. And like it can get painful depending on how high the setting is, but it basically like just helps with inflammation. It pumps like the blood just through your body. So you can get that result just by taking your shoes off and like being in the sand or soil or grass, like just grounding yourself. But there's just certain things that I do as a protocol that I do like every day. And I think getting off the piss has been like a big one.
Starter.
It transformed my life. Like exactly the same as you. Like we're on the piss, it leads to other stupid things and it affects you. Then you feel shit through the week. So then the weekend comes around again and you do it all again because it makes you feel good. And it's just this slippery slope that never ends. And mine happened when I was becoming a dad. And I was just like, this has got to stop. I'm now not just responsible for myself, but for someone else as well. And I did a 6-month stint off the booze. I just said, that's all you got to do. 6 months, see how you feel. By month 1, you get your weekends back and you start to live a bit more. By month 3, I felt like a completely different fucking person. Like even on sales calls, you're more confident, you're not worried, you don't have anxiety. When shit does happen, you deal with it so much better because you're just so much more level and grounded. You don't panic at things. Like it was just incredible. And I was like, wow, like there must be so many people that might be living and just operating at 60, 70% because it's a few drinks here, a bender on the weekend here. And I really just unlocked this different level of performance. So the fact that you sit there and say you haven't drank in 13 years and we probably thought you'd be like 32 years old, there's got to be some method in the madness for sure.
And what about stress? Obviously, you reduce a lot of stress out of your life. It seems you've still got stress, I'm sure. I know you mentioned an issue that's gone on this morning before the pod. What impact has that had, do you think, on your overall health and now taking a chunk of that stress out of your life? How are you feeling compared to the old Ben?
So I think as founders, or like I think any high performer like we are, like there's constant stress, right? It's every day. I think it's what we sign up for. Like we're dealing with fucking problems. We're setting big goals. We're trying to solve big problems. So like we're always stressed, right? So I used to deal with it really bad. I used to be really reactive, I'd say. Like get angry a lot, like anger problems because like I want a result and it wasn't happening. So like trying to control situations, like just not accepting, like fuck, something's happened. There's this formula called E plus R equals O, which is event plus response equals outcome. And so the only thing you can control is your response. So if someone smashes into my car today, like I can't control that's going to happen. I can't control the outcome that he smashed through my doors, but I can control it getting out of the car and being a fuckwit, or I can just be calm. So like, there's been certain tools that I've tried to adopt through high-performing coaches around how to deal with stress. But ultimately, what I did is I started to think about what I call the stress filter system. So a bit like I've got a water filter at home that kind of removes fucking heavy metals and chemicals and dirt and shit because I'm on like water tanks. So I started to think about how can I control my stress better every day because it's just like it's constant. So the stress filter system that I work with as a framework, it has 3 parts to it. So when I'm dealing with a stressful situation, I'm firstly thinking, number one, is this urgent? Number two, what can I do about it now? And number three, is there someone who can solve this situation better than me? So last night I realized that our website got attacked. Is this urgent? Like, fuck yeah. Super urgent. What can I do about it right now? I couldn't do anything because like I'm at my house. I'm not a technical guy. And so I was like, I can't do anything about it right now. I can just obviously message someone in my tech team. And is there someone who can do this, like get a result better than me? Of course. Like, so like I just follow that 3-part system because some of the times like someone can't do it better than me. Like it's a problem that I've got to extinguish out myself. So I'm not going to try and outsource it. So I just kind of put my stress through that filter system and try not to like stew as well. So one of the things I used to do is it used to fucking ruin my day. So if something happened in the morning, like that was bad, it would interrupt my whole day back in the day, right? Like my entire day until I kind of went to bed and woke up the next day. And sometimes went on for days. Now I try not to let it disrupt me for too long. I try and I used to try and keep it for under 60 seconds, which doesn't work. But like, I just try and like deal with it a lot quicker.
Yeah. You had a good one early on in Harwell, didn't you? Where it was like, if something went wrong, something fell over, a job, someone turned down an offer, for example, it hurt us in the early doors because we were still waiting to pay ourselves.
Yes.
So it really hurt. And Ads just goes, did you do everything you could? If you did everything you could in terms of that process, then just let it. It goes to the recruitment gods. If there was something you missed, then you need to reflect.
Yeah.
That accountability piece.
Better.
I think it's when you're in control. It's probably kind of going a little bit against what you said there, but when you're in control of the actions you've taken, that's the outcome you've got in the recruitment world anyway. Of someone hitting your car, not ideal. With things you can control, if you're at peace with you did everything the best you could, it hasn't gone your way. That's a lot easier then to go, oh well, Sally should have taken the job because she told me she would, but really didn't ask enough questions early on to make sure it's actually the right job for her. So it's a you thing as well.
Yes.
But I really like, can I deal with this now? I know when I have a problem pop up, my personality type is deal with it.
Yeah.
And I probably steam into things and sometimes make them better, but definitely sometimes make them worse. Because I'd rather have some kind of action and some kind of decision made than just none, where Harvey's personality is very different.
Yes.
A bit slower, a bit more analytical, a bit more methodical. So we do bounce off each other well there. Sometimes the D takes over and I just go and do it anyway and we'll cop it. But for me, if I don't take action, that's when I can feel the blood boiling. What I think for you is if you don't take the right action, that's where you get stressed.
Yeah, I have to analyze everything. Okay, what are the things that put yourself in that person's situation?
Yeah.
Because if I go in and grill someone for something and I've missed it, God, that rattles me.
But it's good that you spend time going through it methodically and trying to, and even just what you said earlier about how the advice you gave around like did you follow the process? Just having awareness, I think around that is good. But I think stress is real, and I don't think it's talked about a lot. And I think that we need to think about as high performers how do you deal with high stressful situations, and because it's I feel like it's constant. Like the problems and the stress, it's like that equals business.
And I think because you're high performers, your capacity for stress gets bigger.
Yeah.
But then you just take on bigger problems.
That's right.
The problems we have when we first started, looking back, they are so minor compared to what we're dealing with now. And in 2 years' time, we'll be looking back and thinking these are the glory days.
True.
Yeah, it's part of the fun.
Mate, I've got a quote that I actually screenshotted from your Instagram a couple of months ago. And now you're on our podcast, so I can ask you about it. So it's pretty cool. I want you to expand on it because it really hit hard with me.
Hopefully I wrote it.
It says you did at the bottom. So. It says, the good old days, they're happening right now. What if every moment today is the one your 90-year-old self aches to relive? The days may feel long, but the years, they fly by. Make today unforgettable.
So I think we've talked a bit about this, right? Just around, so let me just peel back, right? Like, so I am constantly working in my head. So I'm not like, just don't do anything during the day and just kind of like trying to work it all out. Like I think as a founder and high performers, like we are, like we're constantly in our head, strategically thinking, troubleshooting things, ideation, like it's never ending, right? And I think we've got to try and work out how to slow that down. Well, I do. I think like getting back to that is I was getting burnout early on. I was a workaholic. As I told you, like I'm not proud of it, but like work was more important than my family. Like my parents, like, it was more important than anything. Also, it was my identity, unfortunately, at that time. Like I thought it was everything. Like that's what I thought was life. Do you know what I mean? And it was weird to think that. So for me, I was like, I need to make so much change in a positive way for me, whereby when I get older and when my kids get older, like I'm not going to like regret around how I lived or how, all the choices that I made. And so I think it's just getting introspective, that quote around setting myself up for what success looks like for me now.
We had a guest on this podcast called Jess Cameron,
Okay.
super impressive lady,
Okay.
like a kind of mindset and performance coach. We've done a lot of work with her as well. And one of her stories is she says, it's that deathbed wisdom. And it's when you're lying there on your deathbed, you're not sat there going, oh, I'm glad I didn't take that risk. I'm glad I didn't do that. You're there going, fuck, I should have done more.
Yeah.
And I think that quote took me there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yes, there are the stresses that we have through business now, but I love every minute of it. And I think when you are older and you have less energy, you'll want to be put back into that fucking chaos where it's just, you don't know what's coming at you next and it's just fun and it's so energetic. So
Probably replacing the football scoring a goal or saving a penalty.
Yeah.
That's almost what it feels like we're doing now, replacing the highs of professional sport with now the highs of business and the lows, of course, as well, which can you replicate? I'm probably more fulfilled now in business than ever was playing football. And I think because you're in control more, no one's saying, oh, you shouldn't hire that extra person or you should scale down, whatever. We can kind of do whatever we want.
Yes.
It's super freeing, super scary as well. But I think having a partner to do it with, so I'm sorry for rubbing it in, mate. Obviously, you're young at the moment. Just feel super lucky that there's a journey to go on together. I think I'd struggle to I wouldn't have 50% of the impact if I was by myself. I'd have 20, I think.
yeah, most definitely.
That's good to know.
I've got two questions left I want to ask you. One is, what's the biggest failure you've made along this journey? Whether that's something you've learned from, but what's the one big thing that sticks out for potential entrepreneurs to look out for?
Good question. There's a lot of them. So I'm kind of like skimming through them. I would say not going with my intuition around decisions. So an example would be, and I did this last year, like could be a hire of someone. And on their resume, it's fucking spectacular. You call some people, you go through the checks, etc. But your gut is telling you, or whatever's telling you, it's not right. And then you override that based on, being up here. And I just think it's caught me out way too many times and cost me way too much money, way too much time injection, way too much resource depletion. And I think over time, that compound effect of not going with what my gut's telling me has fucked me a lot.
Powerful.
Just, a friend of ours, Ryan Tuckwood, he spent time on Necker Island with Richard Branson.
Yes.
And some super successful people. And we asked him, what was your biggest takeaway from Necker Island? And he said, Richard Branson said, the bigger the decision, the more you follow your gut.
Okay.
Like regardless of what the numbers, what the logic's telling you, he's like the biggest decisions he's ever made, it's all been on his gut instinct. And I was like, wow, one of the most successful men ever.
It's happened so many times to me. Like that's when I was skimming through all the fails. I'm like, what did I do? What have I where have I made the mistake too many times where I just didn't learn from it? And then now I've realized it. And I've done it so much where like my gut said something to me, even like could be like starting a business. Like I've started a lot of other businesses as well. Like just could be like starting another, like it just could be something else. And my gut's like, don't do it. And I fucking do it. And I'm just like, oh, so yeah.
Yeah, I love it. The last question I wanted to ask, I love the way you talk about the value and the why behind the businesses that you've built. And you're obviously super successful financially, will be very, very well off. But if someone took everything away from you tomorrow, so the money, the success, the fame, what's the one thing you'd be most proud of?
I'd say believing in myself.
How do you mean?
I just think there's a lot of self-doubt that plays out for me. That's always played out around my ability to execute and do. So there's always a voice in the head which is like, hey, there's goals where I want to go and big things I want to achieve, but there's still like a little voice that's like, you won't do that. You won't get there. And I think that if I listen to it at times, like when I started my first business, they were real voices, but then obviously that compounded with inner voices around this won't work. There was just a higher calling around don't listen to it. And that just came down to just backed myself.
You think you would have ended up where you are now if you weren't in California at the party on that chance meeting?
Probably not. I can't answer that. I don't know the answer, but I'd say probably not. I mean, you guys might be able to provide some feedback on this, but I think from my experience, starting a business is the most transformational
100%.
journey around. The mirror comes up around everything for you. I don't have kids yet, they're on their way, but like I'm sure kids is a big part of that as well, a big mirror. But I think starting a business, like you really test yourself. And so when you asked that question, I was thinking about, well, because I started a business straight after that, like it really tested me around my insecurities, around my ego, around my strengths, around my weaknesses. And so much was revealed that it was actually quite overwhelming. And like, it's still an ongoing process now. So yeah, I think it's profound.
The one thing I've learned about speaking to some super successful people like yourselves on this podcast is that at the core, we're all the same.
Yeah.
Like we all had that self-doubt, even today where it looks like we're super successful. We all still deal with doubt every single day.
Yes.
And you're still worrying about when it's going to stop. And I remember at the start of the journey, it was no different. And there's probably people listening to this that are sat on that business idea and they have been for years and they're just doubting it. But ultimately the lesson is that's never going to go away. So you just need to just fucking give it a crack, have a go, because if you'd have listened to those external voices and then inner voices, as you just said, you don't think you'd be sat here today in the same position, and what a life you're now living as a result of that. So I think there's such a powerful lesson there for people listening to this podcast, if that's one thing they take away.
100%.
I've got one more quote to finish us off.
Oh, fucking hell. Don't he fucks his app all the time.
The only way to guarantee it will never work is to never try.
Yeah.
You like that one?
Yeah.
I like it. Just start.
Yeah. And you'll change along the way. Whether it's that business that works, what you'll learn trying to make it work will then give you the next light bulb, or the people you'll meet along the journey as well.
I love it, mate. Thanks so much for coming on. And I want you to give you a chance now to kind of say where the guys or where the listeners can find you. Because there might be some of our friends that listen to this that are a tradie and want to get off the tools and go, do you know what? Maybe Ben's course or program is right for me.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. It's been good chewing the fat with you. I'd say Instagram, just the handle at Benjamin Handler. You'll find a lot there. So that's where it's at.
Awesome. We'll get all the stuff off you and put it in the show notes as well to make it nice and easy for everyone.
Thanks, lads.
Thank you.
Cheers.